Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Thursday, the 17th day of August, 2023. I hope you're all safe and healthy today and that your family is safe and healthy and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field who, along with the first responders, are every day trying to save lives. Those also who pick up garbage for us to keep streets and places clean and disease-free, as well as those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women that are out here trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover. The teenagers and children that are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia. People who are also the victims of pornography and child pornography, human trafficking and sex slavery, prostitution and child prostitution. Double curses on the perpetrators, the profiteers, and the perverts that create this industry. Double blessings also upon those that are homeless. Nearly 600,000 men, women, and children, mostly children, in the United States of America, homeless. And millions around the world, mostly children, in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. So today, we're going to talk about Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson has shown playing outstanding for a few. Matter of fact, Jalen Brunson has pretty much been playing outstanding continually from high school at the Villanova, at the Dallas Mavericks, and now with the Knicks. But right now is a little bit different. First of all, he's going to be 27 years old on August 31st. So right now, Jalen Brunson is going to be entering his prime years. About Jalen Brunson's prime years, one of the things that gives me a lot of hope with regard to his prime years, first of all, the Knicks have him for 3 more years. Okay, so he just went through the first year of a 4-year deal. Knicks have him for 3 more years. So age 27, age 28, age 29, prime Jalen Brunson we have right now. So I think of it like this. Imagine if you didn't have Jalen Brunson, but instead imagine if you had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Let's say you had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as your starting point guard. Or let's say you had Tyrese Halliburton as your starting point guard from last year and the next 3 years. Or let's, pick another one. Any variety of high-level point guards. Donovan Mitchell. Let's say we had Donovan Mitchell instead of Jalen Brunson last year and for the next 3 years. We would get just as good or better results with Jalen Brunson. He has been underrated. The more time goes by, the more this signing looks like a steal. Dallas could have had Jalen Brunson as a backup for $55 million if they had offered it 2 years ago. But they didn't. And their loss, of course, is the Knicks gain for $104 million, which is still a steal. The Knicks got an all-NBA level burgeoning superstar in Jalen Brunson. So now imagine you got a prime Jalen Brunson who's going on superstar status that you got cheap starting for the New York Knicks. Now, first of all, aside from the fact, what makes him the superstar, first of all? Well, IQ, savvy, ability to get in the paint at will, ability to score almost at will. And so that draws attention. What makes me excited, let's compare him, for example, to Donovan Mitchell or even a Bradley Beal. Donovan Mitchell and Bradley Beal are very high-level star players on the verge of superstar status themselves. I'd say Beal going on the other side of that, but Donovan Mitchell certainly. But I think we can all agree the effectiveness of their game on the NBA level has a lot to do with their extraordinary athleticism. Okay, extraordinary athleticism. Donovan Mitchell plays the ball game above the rim, though he's 6'1". He plays the game above the rim. Why do I bring that up? Extraordinary athleticism is almost like a lion in the forest. Very powerful for a short period of time. Not a long-term attribute. Players that rely on high level of ability from their extraordinary world-class athleticism, generally that athleticism declines. And so does their effectiveness over time. Mitchell is now in his prime years. But what I like about Brunson is he plays the game on the floor level. His game is not predicated on extraordinary athleticism, savviness, high IQ, an extremely high skill level is Jalen Brunson. So you can expect him, theoretically, to play at this high level for a longer period of time than a guy that's dependent on extraordinary athleticism. Let's take a couple of examples. For example, Blake Griffin coming into the NBA. I think he came out of Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken, came out of the University of Oklahoma. Extraordinary athleticism, world-class athleticism. And he tried as much as he could. He really put the work in to develop higher level skill over his NBA career, which helped extend his career. But obviously, as the athleticism died, he just wasn't the same guy. And unfortunately for Detroit Pistons, they had signed him to a $200 million contract when the athleticism started to wane. Okay. And because of that, he became eventually not a superstar, an adequate backup, and then not even that eventually, okay, because of extraordinary athleticism. But then, you get another guy like a Paul Pierce who was more savvy than athletic, and he could play well into his late 30s at a high level because his game was not predicated on extraordinary athleticism. Hence, we talk about Jalen Brunson. So Jalen Brunson is now going into his prime, which means at the level of the powers that he has in terms of skill, in terms of IQ, in terms of savviness, in terms of reading the floor, he's at his best. We haven't had that in New York in a very long time. Last year, we had Jalen Brunson at age 26 just coming into his prime, and you could see what happened. The thing that hindered him last year is a couple of things. Number one, he had to get acclimated to New York, period. That happened. So all players that New York is infamous, famous, whatever you want to call it, on multiple levels, the fan base, the media, it's 10 times higher in New York than any place else in basketball on earth. New York City. Okay, so a guy has to get acclimated. A guy has to be able to play in New York. That was the first thing. Second thing is Jalen Brunson had been leading his team since high school. He's been the guy with the ball, the captain, the straw that stirs the pot, stirs the cup since high school. Did it at Villanova. But when he got to the league, that was Luka Doncic. And Jalen came in as a backup. And you started seeing flashes of Jalen Brunson as a leader when Luka was out. Now, last year was the first time since he's been in the NBA that he had his own team. They gave him the ball and they said, this is your squad, Jalen. So he had to get used to that, getting back in that position as an NBA pro. Then, of course, with the new contract, $100 million, more than anybody thought. There's nobody. And I dare anybody. I could speak. Sometimes I don't like to speak for everybody. I think I can in this place. There is nobody that thought Jalen Brunson was worth $100 million coming out of the Dallas organization to New York. There was nobody that thought that. There were people that predicted he would get that money, but nobody thought he was actually worth that money. I know I didn't. I was thinking $80 million, and that was stretching it. So when a guy signs a contract like that, and he's coming into a New York City, and even if he didn't come to New York City, just signing a contract like that, generally what ends up happening is it's natural for a player to try to show everybody he's worth that contract. Okay? And Jalen made statements in that first year that he was really trying to avoid doing that, just trying to be himself. And it took a lot of effort to do that, but still, in the beginning of the season last year, he was trying to play some hero ball and trying to show that he was worth the contract. Then as the season went on, he got comfortable with the players around him, more comfortable, I should say, and started even playing better. But the hindrance was getting used to playing in New York with that contract, not having to live up to the contract, just being himself. That was an adjustment also for Jalen Brunson. Then, of course, he was getting hurt. He's a very physical player. takes charges, hits the floor a lot. He plays his game on the ground level, and he hits the floor a lot, trying to draw fouls. Sometimes it's acting. Sometimes he's legit getting busted. And so he was banged up, and he hurt his ankle a couple of times last year. And then the playoffs, his ankle was hurt as well. So there was these adjustments. This year, he's used to running the team, an NBA team, his team, number one. He's in his prime. He's healthy. Matter of fact, I can't officially tell you how much he weighs. I know he came into the NBA about 200 pounds. He is not 200 pounds now. They listed him at 190 going into last year, and I believe that he probably was. And I'm not necessarily saying he's lost more weight, but his body is tighter. It definitely is tighter. He is, one thing we know about Jalen Brunson, he's going to work hard. He's not going to rest on any laurels. He's not going to, last year is gone. In that sense, he's a Tom Thibodeau dude. This is a new year. I'm starting this fresh. I got my steps that I take every summer. He's going to work hard. And over the course of time, when a guy takes care of his body like that and understands more and more, he's going to be better, especially in his prime. This year, his body looks tight. He looks very tight. He looks like he's in shape, okay, as you would expect. So he's coming in shape. He's tight. He's in his prime. Another thing, he's got to get used to his teammates. Took him a year. The guy really is at a high level, on the IQ level. So maybe it took him half a season to start really understanding where everybody on his team is going to be, where he needs to catch him and all that. This year, especially with Quentin Grimes, I'm expecting him and Quick Q Dog to work together, or let's say, put it this way, are working together as we speak, to learn each other, to know where each other's going to be on the floor, to find each other. Because that's your starting backcourt. And to me, as I've mentioned many times, I believe Quentin Grimes is all-star level talent. Some people don't agree with me. That don't matter to me. I've seen too many players. This guy is all-star level talent. He's 50, 40, 90 written all over him. So when he and Quentin Grimes that is Jalen Brunson, start learn each other this year and know each other, come into camp in shape, both of them, that's going to be dynamic. So what we're going to see is what the Knicks would be with a superstar at the point guard. See, if you had Chris Paul in his prime, you got him in Jalen Brunson. If you had Donovan Mitchell, you got him in Jalen Brunson. If you had Tyrese Halliburton, you got him in Jalen Brunson right now. Okay? And so just imagine what would that same Knicks team now last year, I said the end of the year, this same squad with no changes. We didn't add Dante DiVincenzo, let's say, and we just still had the same team as last year, 50 plus wins this year. We lose our Obi Toppin, and that's going to be a loss. But it's going to be a net positive in the sense that Obi's a starter. And using him off the bench, he was being misused, but it's not Tibbs' fault. Some of y'all try to blame him. It's not his fault. You got to start an all-NBA player, an all-star player. And and not only that, Randall's not the type of dude to play 25 minutes, 30 minutes. He's the type of dude that you got to put out there and run him like he's a diesel engine. Seriously, a diesel engine got to run harder and longer because the diesel fuel is thicker. That's Randall. So you can't sit him. You can't platoon him with Obi. You got to play him. And so that left Obi out. So Obi was really miscast because Obi was drafted to start. But we know the long story. He didn't start. So he has to go to Indiana. So now he's going to be more cast in the role that's going to make him, as I also say, an all-star level talent. With Tyrese Halliburton as his point guard and him as the starting power forward, he's going to have a year, especially if he doesn't get hurt, thank goodness. But you put in a Dante DiVincenzo and you have R.J. Barrett as your backup for a bigger, stronger, more physical R.J. Barrett, who's also just as indestructible. He plays 72 games a year also. That's going to make the Knicks better, especially with prime Jalen Brunson running things. Okay? And then you have Emmanuel Quickly coming behind Jalen Brunson, who is also an NBA level starter player. But he's a little bit different than Obi in that he not only starts when people get hurt, he can not only play the two guard, He plays high-level defense, and he's been getting consistent 18, 20, 22 minutes since his rookie year, unlike Obi. So he's really already a major piece of the rotation. So you have an NBA starter-level player coming behind the superstar. We're in good shape. So I'm looking for 50-plus wins, as I mentioned. I was already looking for that. But the Knicks, and I'm always conservative, I think they can go higher than that. But I don't want to say because I'm trying to be conservative. I also believe they can be top 4 in the East or better, but I'm going to say top 5 like they were this past season. So being conservative, we're talking about 50-plus wins, top 5 in the East. Okay? But if the Knicks happen to get a top 4 seed, they're going to be more dangerous than the last time they got a top 4 seed. Why? They got more weapons. If you only added prime Jalen Brunson to Randall, you've got more weapons. But you not only have that, as I mentioned, you got Quentin Grimes going into his 3rd year, and he's a high-level talent. And hopefully, as we've been watching, as I mentioned yesterday's video, RJ takes a step forward on defense. He's bigger, stronger. He becomes even more bully ball. Broadway Barrett becomes even a bigger piece. I think we'll be in good shape. But the key is the superstar in the making in Jalen Brunson. I think this is his year. If he can stay healthy, and like I said, his game is predicated on the floor level. So it's not like he's a big athletic dude that you expect to maybe hurt his knee. He's more like a guy that's going to bang up his shoulder, bang up his ankle because he's on the ground level. But if he can stay healthy, relatively healthy, give us maybe 70 games, this Knicks team is going to roll. There's no doubt about it. This Knicks team is going to roll. Okay, and again, been playing together for a while. So I look at it as if the Knicks just signed a superstar. And when they did, really. It's just that they signed him cheap before anybody realized he was a superstar. Again, kudos to the Knicks management. Kudos to the Don. Signed a superstar, got him at the discount, got him starting right before his prime. This is, kudos to Tibbs, kudos to Leon. We roll forward. So I'm looking for the effect of the superstar at the point guard position for the New York Knicks and all of the ramifications, as I mentioned, of that, which we should see this season. Again, to me, one of the keys here not only is Brunson need to be healthy, but him and Grimes need to work together. That's your starting backcourt. That is, you can just pencil that in. That's your starting backcourt. So you have them two. They have to work together. And hopefully, I'm hoping, the thing I don't know that I'm hoping comes to pass, that I'm thinking the Knicks should do, is include, as I mentioned multiple times, let's get more touches for Quentin Grimes. Let's get more touches for Q-Dog. Let's get him more involved in the offense. Let's get him more involved with calling plays for him. Let's get him more involved in playmaking, putting the ball in his hand. Because if you do that with Jalen Brunson on one side, with Julius Randle, with an improved RJ Barrett, with the mob deep now led by IQ with Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart and I Hartenstein, with Deuce McBride waiting in the rings to get his opportunity. You got a hungry team, you got a young team, you got a team that can compete. We finally have a long-term sustainable winner in New York. And that's why I'm not with everybody that's trying to critique this team. Still talking about OG and Anunoby trades. Please stop. We got a squad. Let's roll with them and let them run. Y'all enjoy your Thursday. Shalom.